Good day, everyone. So today I'll be presenting to you about the concept of diversity in the workplace. How do we value them? Okay. So for many people, diversity is a broad concept with many definitions. As I've said earlier, we will be going to explore diversity, and my rundown of my presentation includes defining diversity and its impact in the workplace, understand the benefits of diversity, learn how to leverage diversity to enhance teamwork, increase productivity, and maximize results. So what comes to mind when you hear the word diversity? Okay. We hear much about this term lately. Okay. In fact, if you were to conduct a survey of 20 people and ask them to define diversity, you would most likely receive 20 different definitions. So take a moment and think about this. When asked about diversity, here are some of the things we have heard so far: race, ethnicity, age, sex, gender, sexual orientation, religion, color, disabilities, national origin, and some of these items may have appeared on your list as well. Now, studies indicate that while differences such as race or sex are part of diversity, there are additional aspects of diversity. Factors such as experiences, perceptions, and communication styles also play a role in diversity. Other factors include culture. As we expand our definition of diversity, we begin to realize that our workplaces provides us with an opportunity to tap into those differences that will benefit teams and organizations as a whole. Now, valuing diversity in the workplace is about recognizing, valuing, and leveraging people's differences. There's a shared commitment among team members to utilize these differences to benefit the team. For example, a long-tenured employee on your team may be able to provide additional insights into how to gain project buy-in from key stakeholders' perspective. Additionally, a team member who has a physical disability can assist on an engineering project to determine areas that may be inaccessible. So diversity then becomes more about leveraging differences to increase productivity. We've discussed a little about what diversity is, but why is diversity so important? What place that it have in the workplace? So we are finding that workplaces are more diverse now. Let's take a look at some of the reasons impacting the growth of diversity. Number one, the team concept has become pervasive in our workplaces. As more employees from different backgrounds enter the workforce, these teams will need to work together effectively to accomplish goals. Second, more and more organizations are expanding and becoming more global. People are moving outside of their country of origin for work purposes. Therefore, many organizations are employing people from different walks of life. Number three, cultural differences impact how people interact with one another. Now, diversity benefits a team and organization in many ways. Number one, creativity. That is when you have team members of varying backgrounds, experiences, perceptions, and beliefs. It gives us an opportunity to have a greater flow of ideas. These ideas will be useful in the development of new products and improving processes and systems. The second is group dynamics. Now, as a group works together, what may happen at times is what is referred to as group think. So this occurs when a group would rather have uniformity and fails to assess all possible plans of action. A good example of this is the Challenger disaster, when NASA officials disregarded engineers' concerns and decided to launch the shuttle. Diversity decreases groupthink, and it is possible pitfalls. The third one could be organizational effectiveness. Now, leveraging strengths and experiences in order to get work done more effectively. And I would say the fourth one is team development. Now, the more diversity is leveraged, the more team builds the cohesion. This in turn leads to more creativity, which impacts group dynamics and organizational effectiveness. Diversity means that we begin to look at things from various perspectives. As we do this, we begin to think differently. And here, we realize that leveraging differences can help us on our teams and in meeting goals. It recognizing and exploring differences. As we begin to expand our definition of what diversity is, we can begin to recognize them and begin to explore how they can benefit our team. Appreciating differences. When we appreciate differences, we realize that individual possess qualities that can further the goals of the organization. Fourth one is respecting differences. And this occurs when we value every person's unique contribution to the team. People with different backgrounds can bring new strengths to an organization. Now that we have spent some time defining diversity and its benefits to the team, let us shift gears and discuss how to build effective relationships in a diverse setting. As team members, we each have a role to play in creating an environment that appreciates and respects diversity. There are times, however, when certain behaviors may actually block relationships in teams. If you're a member of a majority culture in a group, some potential behaviors include interruptions, condescending behavior, talking about, rather than two minorities who are present. Now consider this example of condescending behavior. Your first reaction to a physically challenged colleague might be sympathy or pity. You may lower your expectations regarding their abilities. However, lowering expectations can come across as patronizing. Similarly, as a member of a minority culture, there are behaviors that make it difficult to foster valuing diversity. So an example, if an Asian colleague rejects any offers of help because he or she doesn't want to be seen as incompetent, this impedes team development or attainment of goals. Now let's take a deeper look at how the words we say we may put a block forming relationship with diverse team members. Let's discuss the following statements could be perceived and look at some alternate ways of phrasing its statement. Example, you speak Indian, you speak Filipino. Indian or Filipino is not a language, or I would say Filipino is actually a language, but the person asking this question could be viewed as unknowledgeable and disrespectful. Another example is you're pretty articulate for a Hispanic person. So the underlying message communicated with this statement is the assumption that Hispanics are generally not articulate. You people are so smart. That's another example. This is generally viewed as a derogatory statement that assumes that the speaker doesn't view the person as an individual, but instead as a collective group. I never even noticed that you are Black. Okay, which means that there are times when excessive efforts are made to demonstrate an attitude of equality. However, some statements can be viewed as condescending. I understand how you feel as a handicapped person because I'm a woman. Okay. And here the speaker is trying to establish commonality, but in doing so can come across as patronizing. The handicapped person may feel as though the speaker couldn't possibly relate to his or her condition because they don't have a disability. So let's take another look at the previous statements and talk about how they can be asked differently. So do you speak Indian or Filipino? Instead, ask what languages do you speak? So you can always ask about specific language if you are knowledgeable about that culture. For example, do you speak Hindi or Bengali? Okay. Or if you speak Filipino, you speak Bisaya or Ilocano. So you're pretty articulate for a Hispanic person. That's another example that I mentioned earlier. You could state that you like the way the individual prays something. And this shows an appreciation for his or her verbal communication skills without sounding condescending. You people are so smart. Again, point out ways how that person's specific expertise or gifts in area could be utilized. And never even notice that you're Black. Comment instead that the different viewpoints the individual has on the topic was helpful. And then the last one is, I understand how you feel as a handicapped person because I'm a woman. In an appropriate manner, you can express a genuine interest in learning more about the person's experience when saying, I would be interested to hear about some of your experiences and how they could possibly help on this project is one way to communicate this. Now, so as we continue to look at possible barriers to diversity, let's talk briefly about signs that you are not open to diversity. I have to accept that as well. So you think cultural differences are an annoyance in a business setting. For example, you may feel that the presence of different cultures on the job is of no benefit and not understand why we are talking about this diversity stuff again. You think it's too much effort to learn about other cultures and our differences. So you may understand why is it even necessary to learn about differences. We are all here to do a job. What difference does it make? Okay, something to think about. Third one is you refer to differences as weird. Think about the time when a colleague may have brought in a food from his or her native land that you have never seen before. Did you automatically dismiss this as something strange and weird? You're in Australia now, attitude. Okay. Why do you have to learn about all this stuff? After all, it's your country. As they said, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. When you're in Australia, do what the Australians do or the Aussies do. Fifth one is not willing to distinguish between different ethnicities of a certain group. So a team member shares with you that she is Vietnamese or Nepalese. You think that they all look like anyway and constantly refer to her as Chinese. We've learned earlier about how diversity can benefit a team. So creativity and team cohesion, okay, both of which impact productivity are increased. We have identified some factors that may impede effective work between persons with diverse background. Now let's explore how we can push those barriers and leverage diversity. So when we value diversity, we are, number one, thinking differently, recognizing and exploring differences, appreciating differences, respecting differences. Now thinking differently. Notice a Johari window here that I plus on the screen. So to begin to recognize the value of diversity, we must develop an awareness of our interaction with others. I want to introduce you to a tool, as I've said earlier, to increase self-awareness. The Johari window divides personal awareness into 4 types. Number one is the public area. These are the things that I know about myself and that you know about me. The second thing is hidden area, things that I know about me, but that I am unaware of. The third one is unknown area, things that neither I know about myself nor you know about me. And of course, the fourth one is the private area, things that I know about myself that you don't know. Now let's examine its awareness type. The first window, the public area, represents things about me that both I know and others know. This is a self that we choose to share with others. So for example, I know my name and so do you. So this window not only represents factual information, but my feelings, the motives, behaviors, values, needs, and beliefs and perceptions, among other things. Information that describe who I am. When I first meet a new person, the size of the opening of this first window is not very large, since there has been little time to exchange information. Here, authentic relationships are formed as more open information exchange, and we begin to think differently about each other. Now, as illustrated in the cartoon on the screen, on the slide, as the process of getting to know one another continues, the window is enlarged and there is greater understanding and awareness by others about who I am. The second window, the blind area, contains things that others observe or know about me that I am not aware of. This can be positive or negative behaviors that affect the way others interact with me. So for example, we could be eating at a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, and may have unknowingly gotten some food on my face. So this information is my blind window because you can't see it, but I cannot. If you now tell me that I have something on my face, this opens the blind area. Okay. I may also have blind spots with respects to many other much more complex things. For example, perhaps in our ongoing conversation, you may have noticed that eye contact seems to be lacking. Very true to me. So you may not say anything since you may not want to embarrass me, or you may draw your own inferences that perhaps I am being insincere. Then the problem is, how can I get this information out in the open? Since it may be affecting the level of trust that is developing between us. How can I learn more about myself? So continuous exchange between you and I, where I request feedback and you give feedback, is key in eliminating blind spots. So this area represents an opportunity to discuss preferences on how to give and receive feedback. And this in turn will lead to greater knowledge of myself and help in my interaction with you and others. The third window, the unknown area, which represent things that neither I know about myself nor you know about me. So for example, I may disclose a dream that I had, and as we both attempt to understand its significance, a new awareness may emerge known to neither of us before the conversation took place. Being placed in new situations often reveal new information not previously known to self or others. Take for example of a researcher attending a workshop. And during this workshop, the facilitator created a safe atmosphere of care and trust between the various participants. The researcher described himself as terrified of speaking in public, but was surprised to learn in such an atmosphere that tasks need to be not to be so daunting. You know, prior to this event, he had viewed himself and others and also viewed him as being extremely shy. Thus, a novel situation can trigger new awareness and personal growth. The process here helped move him into the first public quadrant, thus enlarging its area. Okay, So this once again assists in creating an environment where things unknown to me and to others. The fourth one is the fourth window, the private area. Here that contains those aspects of myself that I know about and keep hidden from others. For example, I have not told you of my favorite ice cream flavor. Call it in the Philippines, my Magnolia ice cream flavor. This information is in my private quadrant. So as soon as I can tell you that I love Ben and Jerry's, Ben and Jerry's ice cream flavored ice cream, I am effectively making this window smaller and enlarging the first window area. Again, there are vast amount of information, virtually my whole life story that has yet to be revealed to you. As we get to know and trust each other, I will then feel more comfortable disclosing more intimate details about myself. And this process is called self-disclosure. Now, the application of the Johari window comes in opening up the public area and making the other three areas as small as possible. The Johari model is valuable in leverage diversity. It helps us to think differently because we develop a greater awareness of how our actions are perceived. As one level of confidence and trust develops, one may actively invite others to comment on one's blind spots. And this is accomplished by regular and honest feedback and a willingness to disclose. And as this regular feedback increases, team members are able to provide appropriate support to you. And in turn, you will be able to do the same for them. Once you gain a greater understanding of your interaction with others, you will then be able to begin to recognize and explore differences. And as Stephen Covey said, first seek to understand, then to be understood. We can seek to understand the perceptions, values, culture of others, and then have understood others, those things about us. Culture greatly influences our approach to our lives, to others, and to our work. The salad bowl versus the melting pot. We all have probably heard America described as a melting pot. That may not be as correct image as it assumed that we all melt in one collective culture and lost the identity of our original culture. Instead, consider our culture as a salad bowl. In a salad bowl, you have a lettuce, a tomato, carrots, cucumbers, okay? And many more. Even after the items are mixed together, they all maintain their individual characteristics. The same could be said for culture. We coexist and maintain individual aspects of our culture, whether it be foods we eat, how we communicate, values, beliefs. In Sydney, in Melbourne, in Brisbane, and many places around the world, there are pockets of culture. Vietnamese, Chinese, Hispanics, Indonesians are examples. Culture is communication, and communication is culture. How we communicate shows how open we are with different cultures. Our tone of voice, the words we use, our body language all dictate our sensitivity to other, not new ways of doing things. Another thing, culture is essential, not just desirable. It's no longer just desirable to be culturally adept. It's essential. We have to recognize the needs of our customers, co-workers. Culture is learned, not innate. Okay, we don't automatically know about our culture. We have to be willing to learn. So here are some tangible ways we can recognize and explore differences. Demonstrating interest in learning about other cultures' differences. And that is, ways to do this include asking a trusted friend with a culture other than your own about their culture, or read about communication styles. Second thing is listening without interrupting. Everyone wants to be heard. Constant interruption may send an unintended message to the speaker that you are not truly interested. Okay. Taking risks. Ask about differences. As we stated previously, lack of knowledge may be a barrier to leveraging diversity. Asking is always better than making assumptions about others. For example, you know that one of your team members is often quiet in staff meetings. After the meeting, you could comment that you noticed that she didn't have much to contribute. During this conversation, you may discover that as an introvert, your coworker needs time to process information from that meeting before speaking. Because you explored this difference, you know you have a greater understanding of how this person works. Okay, so acknowledging sincere attempts, even those clumsy ones. We all have experienced moments when we attempt to ask questions about a difference that may have had unintended consequences of offending others. And as a person on the receiving end of the question, it is important for us to understand that questions may not be phrased in the perfect way. Yet, as we are learning each other as team members, we are also learning how others communicate. Now, dealing with others where they are, instead of expecting them to be perfect, individuals are in a constant state of growth and development. Diversity is not about how we differ. Diversity is about embracing one another's uniqueness. As we think differently, recognize and explore differences, a greater understanding of each other is developed. Viewing diversity as an opportunity can lead us to a greater appreciation of how those differences benefit our team and the organization as a whole. Respecting differences that benefit our team is key in leveraging diversity. We do this by treating people the way they want to be treated, creating a work environment that is free of offensive practices and conditions, valuing every person's unique contribution to the team. Maybe we think about this scenario. We typically spend 80% of our time with people at work. Wouldn't we want to be in an environment where we feel valued, appreciated, and respected for our talents? To sum up my presentation, communication skills is very important. Having self-awareness of how we present ourselves and how me are perceived. Open and honest feedback helps to eliminate those blind spots and open up new ways of thinking and interacting with others. The second thing is diversity. Leveraging diversity benefits the teams and the organization by increasing team cohesion and expanding creativity. As more global individuals become part of our teams, appreciating and respecting differences becomes even more important. Culture is learned. Continue to ask and explore. Based upon what you've learned today, what will you do to help leverage diversity in your workplace? Thank you.